Last week we took a first look at our brand new Royal Enfield Himalayan. This is our new long-term test bike, and in that we got to take it out on the road, get an initial impression. But in today's video, I'm going to ride from our ranch here in Berthoud, Colorado, up to one of our favorite local trails to get this bike on its first dirt. This bike does have a few things going for it off-road, like some slight, very minor skid plating, metal under the pipe, plastic under the motor, better than nothing. However, our biggest limiting factor are going to be these tires. At the moment, not very aggressive, so at some point, we'll likely move to a slightly more aggressive tire, but not yet. Jumping on the Royal Enfield, I have noticed, it's kind of funny, this bike, when you initially get it fired up, it acts a little bit like a carbureted bike. So you can't give it too much throttle until it's got a little bit of temp in it. And we're still at only 90 miles on the odometer. So we're working on break-in miles. We definitely at some point want to do a speed test, top speed test with this bike, and do maybe a little MPG test. But ideally we'll have some more break-in miles by the time we do that. And we're definitely going to work on that a little bit today, because we're going a good ways from our ranch up here in Berthoud to up into the mountains to do a little trail that we call, well, it's called Ironclad's Trail. We do a lot of cars on that trail, and it'll be a good initial test for this bike in stock form, the way that it comes from the factory. Now, before we get to the trail, we've got a little bit of highway riding and a little bit of canyon riding, and I'm pulling onto the highway that's between us and the trail. Not revving it out crazy far, because we're still working on the break-in, but I love the fact that this bike has 6 speeds. I apologize for the noise. I'm wearing my dirt helmet right now, which I'm going to love in a moment, but it's going to be loud for the camera. It's loud for me too. So I'm hearing what you're hearing. I get it. I'll make this quick. Highway riding, this bike, not a lot of wind protection. Even if I get down low, this windshield doesn't do a ton. I do like the way that it looks, but otherwise I don't think it serves any huge purpose, and this is never going to be a highway bike for most people. Most people are going to use this like I'm using it right now, which is a short highway stint. It feels a little bit wrung out, but nothing too bad. I can maintain the speed limit just fine. I could go beyond it if I needed to, and it'll do the highway. It's just not what it feels like this bike is designed to do. But I love the fact that they gave it 6 speeds. I wouldn't have been surprised at all at this price point if this motorcycle had a 5-speed, but the fact that they gave it 6 is just one more ratio that bridges a gap in between some trail riding and some light highway riding. So really nice. Props to the bike overall. If you need to do highway, you can totally do it. It wouldn't be my first choice of motorcycle for extended highway trips. Oh, much more calm. So now we're riding into this beautiful canyon. This is what takes us to the off-road trail that we're going to be riding today, and it's just outside of Lyons, Colorado, pretty near Boulder. So if you're in the area, this is definitely a worthwhile spot to go check out. I can't remember off the top of my head what this road is actually called, but if you go to Lyons, you can pretty easily find it. It's right here. You go through Lyons and you don't head toward Estes Park. You head the other direction, and that road turns into this. I'm better with landmarks than I am with road names. Either way, unimportant. The bike. This is a pretty decent motorcycle on road. I would say especially 60 mile per hour and below feels like you're definitely in the sweet spot for this bike. Over 60 miles an hour, absolutely this motorcycle can do it. But there's other motorcycles that I would rather be on for that kind of thing. And if that's a type of riding that you're planning to do quite often, I would say that maybe a Tenere 700 might be a good spot to look at as an upgrade from this Himalayan. And if you're a newer rider, you could always start out on one of these Himalayans and then maybe work your way into something slightly bigger, like a Tenere 700. That being said, Tenere 700 also not really a long distance highway bike. It too feels high strung on some faster highways, but it's definitely a more substantial, more powerful road bike than this one is. Also more technology, also more expensive. So those are all things that you would have to ponder, consider. But this Himalayan satisfied a particular itch for us. What this bike does so well is give you, again, that look and that fit and finish that I like a lot. It gives you a lot of the necessary things you want. This motorcycle has ABS, it's got a TFT, so pretty modern display. It's of course fuel injected, and it's got some decent protection if you do want to take it onto a light trail like what we're going to do today. So overall, you really get a lot for your money. This motorcycle having an MSRP right around $6,000. It's not bad at all. Also, I want to say, for a thumper, for a single-cylinder engine, it really doesn't sound that bad. Of course, that's one of the big drawbacks of this motorcycle, is that this 450 makes about 40 horsepower. So the fact that we're going pretty slow behind these guys in the Mercedes visiting from California, taking pictures and video, understandably, because this is a beautiful place, I'm not that upset because this is not a fast canyon riding kind of motorcycle. And just like that, through the magic of editing, we're here at the trailhead in no time at all. A little bit of a drop down when we transition here. Bonk. First gear, turn signal off, and we're onto the dirt. I am going to pause up here so that I can switch my mode. So let's see, neutral. Hit the mode button and it says mode change denied or retry in next ignition cycle. So I guess I'll do performance rear ABS off. That way, you know, be a little better configured for running the trail. And most of this trail is pretty mild. It's not too bad, which I appreciate because, again, it's not a super aggressive tire that we've got going here. There's a lot that you could do to this bike if you wanted to make it a little better. Off-road, you could definitely, first things first, go for a knobbier tire. This stock unit is pretty mild. You could also play around with your sprockets and gear it down a little bit, because I can already tell you, of course, this motor doesn't have boatloads of torque. It's not the most powerful thing in the world, but even at 10 miles per hour, I feel like I'm lugging it a little bit. So I think doing single track, anything super technical, you're gonna want to play around with that gearing some, because this motorcycle's heavy, not super powerful, and already my initial impression is that it feels a little bit more geared for the street than being on a trail. But the suspension feels pretty fantastic. Once again, not a lot of adjustability in this suspension, which I wouldn't expect at this price point, but it doesn't need it, at least for my weight, around 175 pounds. So if you're similar size to me, I'm 5'10", 175. This bike feels great. Roman, my boss, rode it. He's over 200 pounds and over 6 feet, and he didn't have any particular complaints that he voiced to me either. So I think a pretty broad range of weights, you'll be pretty well set up on this bike. And yeah, I mean, it's a good bike. I like the ergonomics for standing. I can grip the tank pretty nicely with my knees and get into place and feel comfortable cruising on this type of pretty mild trail. This motorcycle for a fire road, as it comes from the factory, feels perfect. This feels perfectly adequate. If you want to do something more intense, there's definitely adventure bikes out there that get you more performance, more travel, more power, better crawling gears, also get you a little bit or a lot more in the way of rider aids, because some of the more expensive ADVs out there can definitely get you some pretty sweet stuff. This is, of course, much more on the simple side of things. Try and stay out of the mud. For this exact kind of riding, I would say this Himalayan is perfect. If you want to go out and explore, see some really cool places, then this is a versatile enough motorcycle to get you to a lot of those different spots. It's good on the road, it's decent on the dirt, even as it comes equipped from the factory, and that will allow you to do a little bit of exploration, see the sights, especially if you live in an awesome spot like we do here in Colorado, then there's a lot you could do with this motorcycle. And that's exactly what we plan to do with it. I'd still like to get a more aggressive tire just because on situations like what we were just on, where you're side hilling some soft, silty dirt like what we've got here in Colorado, I don't really trust the grip on these pretty mild tires that much. But who knows, maybe the more time I spend with it, the more I'll trust it. Because this is only the second time I'm riding this bike. And with carrying a little speed and even letting the back tire leave the ground a little bit, bike feels good. Especially if you're a good dirt rider, you could rally this around and have quite a bit of fun. I would wager, well, a little water crossing, why not? I would wager that I'm probably similar to a lot of Himalayan riders in that I've spent a bit of time on dirt bikes, a bit of time on dual sports, a bit of time on adventure bikes, and gotten to play around with it a little bit, but I am far from the greatest off-road rider that anyone's ever seen. And this bike matches that pretty well. Do I go for the deep water crossing? It doesn't look like it's super deep. Why not? Let's do it. Oh, it's deeper than I thought. Oh, wow. Well, there goes soaking the boots. Let's see how far into the water we went. I was not really expecting that. Let's see, water level. I mean, it looks like maybe to the bottom of the tank. That's pretty good. Yeah, that was a little more than I was thinking. But doesn't sound like we pulled in any water. So testing this Himalayan out with a mix of challenges for its first time hitting a trail. We come to this trail so often. I should have figured it was going to be deeper than I've expected, because it often is. And we've had a good bit of rain here since it's been the spring and classic spring weather. But Himalayan, some decently deep water. Props to the bike, did fine. So that'll be all for this first trail video with the Himalayan. More to come for sure. This is a really sweet bike. I think it's one that's going to prove to be good at so many different things. And if you're a rider, or even if you're not a motorcyclist, but you've got a cool car that you care about, then check out our partners over at Rider Justice. Scott and the team over there, we've been working with them for years because they are awesome to work with. And if you're ever in an accident on 2 wheels or on 4, make sure you call Scott first. That's all for this video. I'm just a little bit out of breath because this bike is slightly on the heavy side, but to its credit, once it gets moving, it really doesn't feel that bad. So a nice little mix of things for our first time out. Got some temp in the motor. We're at around 120 miles now, so we'll get another 30 miles on the way back. Continue to break it in and do a bunch more testing with it. Let us know in the comments below what you want to see us do with the bike. That's all for this video. We'll see you next time.